The grand ballroom was alive with chatter as the city's elite celebrated New Year's Eve. I stood by the stage, barely paying attention, lost in my thoughts. This wasn't where I wanted to be. Then I saw her, a little girl, no older than 8, standing by the dessert table. She didn't belong here. Her curious eyes met mine, and she walked over, her steps calm but deliberate. "Do you believe in second chances, Mr. Grayson?" she asked softly. I was about to respond when my eyes caught a man lingering in the shadows, his gaze fixed on the girl. Why was he watching her? And why did she seem so out of place? Something mysterious going to happen today? "My name is Elliot Grayson. I'm a millionaire, a self-made man who had clawed his way to the top. I built my empire from the ground up, investing in restaurants, real estate, and everything in between. I lived in a mansion, drove the best cars, and had more money than I could ever spend. But despite all of that, I was empty. I had spent my entire life chasing the idea of success, but I was starting to wonder if it was worth it. My business was thriving, but my personal life was a wasteland. I had no family, no real friends, just people who wanted something from me. And then I met her. It was a late afternoon when I first saw her. I was walking through the park, trying to clear my head after a long day of meetings. That's when I saw the little girl. She was sitting on a bench, staring at the sky, her knees pulled up to her chest. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. She looked so small, so alone. There was no one else around her, and for a moment I wondered what a little girl like her was doing in a place like this. I walked past her, but then I heard a voice. "Excuse me, mister," she called out. I turned, a little taken aback. "Can you play with me?" she asked, her voice sweet and innocent, but with a sense of loneliness that tugged at my heart. I paused, not sure what to say. I had a million excuses in my head. I was busy. I had things to do. But then, for some reason, I couldn't walk away. As I walked into the office that morning, something felt different. The usual hum of busy colleagues, the low murmur of phone conversations, and the constant stream of emails, everything felt distant, detached. Despite my outward success, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was suffocating. There was something hollow in me that no amount of luxury, no number of expensive cars, or lavish dinners could fill. I sat at my desk, staring at the computer screen. But it wasn't the work that demanded my attention. I kept thinking about that little girl I had met the day before. Her bright, wide eyes had struck me in a way that no one ever had. The way she looked at me, as though she could see right through the walls I had built around myself. It had been a fleeting encounter, but it was enough to spark a fire in me, a fire I didn't know existed. She didn't see a millionaire. She saw someone who needed help. She didn't ask for anything for herself. Instead, she made a simple, pure request: "Come play with me." It felt like a challenge, almost like a dare to break free from the walls I had so carefully constructed. I spent hours at my desk, drowning in the pressure of deadlines and tasks, yet unable to stop thinking about that little girl. I thought about her in the quiet moments between meetings and in the silence that fell over me in the late hours of the office. Her words echoed in my mind, and I couldn't help but wonder, what if I wasn't this way? What if, instead of constantly striving for more, I focused on what truly mattered: connecting with people, helping those in need, and living with genuine intention? But the truth was, it wasn't easy to change. It's easy to tell yourself that you want to be different, but taking that first step is a mountain in itself. I had spent years building this fortress around me, and the idea of breaking it down felt terrifying. I looked out the window at the busy streets below, watching people rush by in their daily routines. I had everything they could want: wealth, power, success. But did I truly have what they had? The connection, the simplicity, the joy of genuine human interaction? No, I was isolated. My own prison of ambition had locked me away from the world. And now, here was this little girl, with nothing to her name, reminding me of something I had forgotten: the joy of simple connection. The next morning I returned to the park. I hadn't planned to, but I found myself drawn to that bench where we had sat. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to see her again. I needed to understand why her words had stuck with me. When I arrived, the park was quieter than the day before. I walked to the spot where we had met, my footsteps echoing on the path. I half expected her to be there, but she wasn't. I waited, hoping she would come running up to me with that same innocent smile. I didn't know what I was doing, but it felt like something I had to do. I sat on the bench, waiting for what? A sign? A moment of clarity? I wasn't sure. But then I heard a faint sound, a small voice calling out from the bushes nearby. "Hey, mister," it said. I turned and saw her. She was standing there, in the same worn clothes, holding a crumpled piece of paper in her hands. "I made you something," she said, stepping closer and handing me the paper. I took it from her, unfolding it carefully. It was a drawing of me, though not how I expected. It wasn't a portrait of a successful businessman, but a picture of a man sitting on a bench, surrounded by a world full of color and life. The man in the drawing was smiling, surrounded by trees, birds, and people. It was the kind of picture I hadn't seen in years. "You look happy in the picture," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I thought you might like it." It hit me like a wave. I had spent my whole life chasing after things: money, success, status, believing that these were the things that would bring me happiness. But in all that striving, I had forgotten what happiness really was. It wasn't about the things you own or the title you carry. It was about the moments you share with others, the connections you make, and the joy of simple, unassuming kindness. "I don't know if I've ever been happy," I admitted, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "At least, not in the way you mean." She didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, watching me. But there was something in her eyes, a depth, a wisdom that belied her years. She looked at me as though she understood everything I was going through, even though she was just a child. "I think you could be happy," she said softly, her voice full of compassion. "You just have to remember what really matters." Her words were simple, but they were the truth. She had no idea how profound her statement was. She didn't need to. She was just a child, but she had found the key to a life that was worth living. The rest of that day passed in a blur. I couldn't concentrate on work, couldn't focus on the endless emails piling up. My mind was consumed by the realization that had hit me like a lightning bolt. I had been living a lie. My life had been filled with superficial accomplishments that meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I had been missing out on. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in my bed, staring at the ceiling, grappling with the enormity of what I had to change. Could I really transform my life? Could I let go of everything I had built and embrace the vulnerability that true happiness required? The answer came not in a moment of clarity, but in the quiet certainty of knowing that I had to try. The next morning, I returned to the park. She was there again, sitting on the same bench. I walked over to her, my heart pounding. I didn't know what to say, but I knew I needed to speak. "I've been thinking about what you said," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "And I think you're right. I've been living all wrong. I've been chasing things that don't matter, but I want to change. I want to be happy, really happy, and I want to do it the right way, with people like you." She looked up at me, her smile wide and knowing. "I knew you would," she said. And in that moment, everything changed. I didn't have all the answers, and I didn't know exactly what the future would look like. But I knew that I had found something far more valuable than any amount of wealth or success: connection, meaning, and a chance at a life that was truly fulfilling. I didn't need a fancy office or a chauffeur-driven car to feel important anymore. What mattered was the people I met along the way, the lives I touched, and the legacy I would leave behind. I had a long journey ahead of me, but I wasn't alone. I had learned that true wealth comes from what you give, not what you take. If you've ever found yourself chasing after success at the expense of what truly matters, I encourage you to take a step back. Ask yourself, what is it that I'm really searching for? The answers might surprise you. Let's all remember that happiness isn't found in things, it's found in the moments we share and the connections we make. If you're ready to start your own journey of transformation, don't wait for tomorrow. The time to change is now. Like, subscribe, and share this story to inspire others who might need that nudge to start living their best lives.